I spent 4 days in the woods camping with Bigfoot hunters, meeting people, hearing stories of strange encounters, and theories about what might have caused them.
There are a lot of people out there who want to know what this thing is, if only to prove, and even if it's just to themselves, that, hey, I'm not really crazy, there's something out there.
I made a documentary about the campout, but not everything made the final cut. Today I'm wandering through the woods, sharing some of those clips that didn't make it in the documentary, and sharing some of what I found while searching for Bigfoot.
We're not sure of anything, really. It's an unknown subject. We know it's there, but we don't know what it is.
The campout took place in Central Florida, and about 25 people from all across the East Coast of the United States showed up. People with varying beliefs and theories about what Bigfoot actually is.
I mean, it's like a who's who here. Good people. We got filmmakers here. We have people from the woo side. We have people that are believing stick figures and X's. We have people like me trying to just figure it out, flesh and blood. And so it's the whole gamut. And I put it that way by design.
We camped in a wildlife corridor that had fields, forests, and a river running right through the middle of it.
We're in an area with a history of Bigfoot sightings surrounding it. We're in an area that people come to look for Bigfoot. At least we have been. But we haven't seen any other Bigfooters. And if you go Bigfooting, you know that, since finding Bigfoot, if you go out in the woods, there's people out there looking for Bigfoot. There's people knocking, there's people whooping, there's all that going on. We haven't seen any of that here. We're the only crazy people in the woods. Well, the only crazy people in the woods looking for Bigfoot.
I didn't go to this campout trying to prove or disprove Bigfoot. I just want to hear the stories and learn about the people who have had these unexplained encounters in the woods.
I've seen one run, and it was a gray blur running across in between a big section of trees.
So why do people get into Bigfooting? Go out looking for this mythical creature? Well, a lot of folks, it's because they had a sighting. They actually already saw it.
A lot of people's had stuff happen to them out there.
Some of the other people, maybe they just had a strange encounter that the only way they can explain it is by it being Bigfoot. What would you say to folks who maybe wouldn't believe your account or just immediately dismiss, Bigfoot stories as tall tales?
I can understand. I understand where they're coming from, but I can't express enough to just keep an open mind. Because I didn't ask for any of this to happen, and anyone that's had an encounter, that's not like they're not asking for it. It just happened, and I wasn't looking, and I didn't even think there was a possibility of them being over here. Growing up, I just thought it was, maybe there's something in the Northwest. But now you're hearing all the encounters in all these different parts of America. It's eye-opening, and it makes you want to keep going out and finding those answers.
Other folks got into it more of a roundabout way. They're just into the topic and want to know for themselves whether it's real or not.
I started doing this 4 years ago because I grew up hunting, fishing, being outdoors. I was in the military, and I was always interested in Bigfoot. I always figured it was real from a lot of the stories you hear with the Native Americans, a lot of stuff like that. And I got tired of the shows on TV not showing anything. So I decided one day that I was going to go ahead and start going out on my own and learning and see if I can find evidence myself. And I just started this because of that. I just wanted to know for myself if they were real.
It turns out that some people just got into the topic after reading about it for a while. How did you get into this?
A friend casually mentioned it to me, and I thought, well, let me find out what this is all about. And I spent like a month researching online, and in that month I came away with the point that there is something to it.
How did you come away with that idea?
Just the sheer amount of eyewitness reports and encounters. That's the first thing that hit me. I said, well, this many people, encountering this creature and having there's got to be something to it. So I just kept delving deeper in from that point.
And have you had your own sightings?
Yes, I have. I just had it last year.
Oh, wow.
After about 12 years of researching, last year, I was up at my buddy's cabin, and after it got dark, I snuck out to the front porch, real quietly. I had a spotlight with me. There's a pond right in front of his cabin. And I popped the spotlight on, and there was something down at the water, and it was grayish black, and it scooted up the embankment like fast as I've ever seen anything move before. And I thought it was a big hog. And I kept the spotlight on it until it got to the wood line. And as soon as it got in, just inside the wood line, it stood up like a person. So that told me right there that this is what I've been wanting to see all these years, and I seen it. And me and my buddy, I told him about it immediately, and he says, well, let's go see if we can find some tracks. And we scooted out there pretty fast, and we was out there maybe a minute or two, and we got growled at. And it sounded like a lion growling. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And we could tell it was coming from, it wasn't close to the ground, it was coming up from a height. And my buddy says, well, I think we need to go. And I said, I think you're right. We got out of there back into the cabin. But that was my first sighting so far.
In Joey's case, it's pretty cool that after 12 years, he finally got to see what he's been searching for. How has your thoughts or potential theories on Bigfoot changed over your journey?
Well, I've always been a believer, and I don't think it's changed. I've just come to the point where I can see how Bigfoot could exist.
While most Bigfoot hunters are only looking for Bigfoot, some of them do think they're finding evidence of other cryptids also.
I have seen footprints of feral humans out in my area.
Oh, wow.
Twice.
How do you think?
I just the way it looks, it's the toes are extremely long and it's narrower. It's just not human. The toes are so different and long, and it's just so weird. And where there are, I would think that people would be wearing shoes out that far, because where I saw it, the one area was clearly 3 or 4 miles down in. And there was regular dog prints with that feral human print. I think it was a feral human. I may be completely out of line and completely wrong. I don't know, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel personally. I'm not telling anybody else to feel that way, but that's how I feel. I don't tell anybody to feel anyway. They can feel however they want.
And you think a feral human is different than like a Bigfoot?
Oh
or?
yeah.
Like Kathy said, most people aren't going to be hiking barefoot in the woods, especially in Florida, where you've got cottonmouths, coral snakes, rattlesnakes, pygmy rattlesnakes. It's just really not a smart idea. But the dog prints that she mentioned next to the footprints definitely does raise some doubts in my mind. Kathy definitely isn't the only person who thinks there's more than just Bigfoot out there.
I think there's a lot more out there than just Bigfoot. I think everything's getting compacted into Bigfoot, or everybody calling it Bigfoot. And I think there's some other cryptids as well. But I think a lot of what we're getting is either like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a lot of what I'm catching on thermal camera. And I think we have a mixture of skunk ape up in this area too.
And you think those are all separate creatures?
Yeah, I think they're separate, yeah. They're probably related. Like I think the skunk apes from South Florida and up along the Gulf Coast over in that areas, because like in Pasco County, we were finding four-toe footprints and five-toe footprints, and I think it's a mixture of both, the skunk ape and the Sasquatch. And over here towards this area in Green Swamp, where I'm mostly at, I'm finding five-toe footprints, which I believe are mostly the Sasquatch. Yeah.
Interesting. Some people also talked about seeing dogman, UFOs, orbs, and a whole variety of other paranormal activity, so to speak. You mentioned about portals before. How do you think they are related to
Yeah,
Bigfoot or any of these other
I think they are related. I think they're using either some type of portal or something to do with energy from the trees. From hearing a couple of psychic people that I know and their experience with talking to them, I think they are using dimensions, going in and out of dimensions, stuff that we can't do.
One of the people had a whole host of claims about Bigfoot. At one point, he was telling me about like a whole society structure that they have set up.
And they got family units, they got tribes, and then they got the big groups. Each family unit will have their tribal area and their domain. And then they have the group of them, which would be like 8 or 10 family units, probably 20 family units, depending on where they're at, you know, how big an area. And then you have the master group, which is like your town unit. You know, you have your family, you have your community, then you have your town. That's the only way I can explain it.
How do you know all this?
Observing. I've watched them, and I've been seeing the markers.
James had all sorts of, let's call them eccentric ideas about Bigfoot. They're all fun to hear, but, you know, they can't really be substantiated.
And there's another thing they got out there, I call them poop drops. It's usually in the swamp areas or where water's at. If you go out there, you'll see where there's a big round clearing or something in the brush, in the water. And up on land, you'll see all of these limbs and sticks about that long, broke up, laying all over the place. What they do is they back up into that water and they take a crap in the water. They take the stick and they stir it. That way you can't get their waste, because you don't never see it droppings anywhere. But they do it in the water and they stir it up so you can't get the DNA out of it.
Why would, I mean, essentially they're contaminating the water with their own feces.
Well,
why would they do that?
They're an animal, you know. That's what they do.
Yeah, but most animals don't pee and poop in their own
They just pee and poop on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want you to get their waste. They know that would get them in trouble. If you get their scat and you prove that they're there because of the scat, then they lose their ability to hide.
And you've observed this behavior?
Oh yeah, I showed them, they got one out here. I showed it to Tim and all them the other day. You can see where there's 2 footprint areas where they walk back so they could squat down and take a crap in the water.
So where do they drink? Do they drink somewhere different?
Well, they drink away from where that is, yeah. They drink regular water. You can go anywhere and get water. And then they got certain places that they'll have their poop drops.
So why would they let us drink the water?
They don't care if you get sick or not.
I damn sure ain't drinking no river water.
I don't think I want to be.
The poop drop, I had a lot of questions about that. I was, you know, super intrigued. I definitely let the conversation go on longer than it should have, but I was curious, you know, I wanted to hear the reasoning behind his thoughts on this particular topic, as well as others. As James mentioned, he did talk to Tim T, so I caught up with Tim T the next day and got his thoughts on the topic. Fortunately, Joey was there. He had been, you know, giggling in the background while James was talking about the poop drop and various other things. It was interesting to hear Tim T and, you know, Joey's thoughts the following morning about the subject.
You know, with Bigfoot, you don't know.
No, you don't.
Everything
no.
he said could be true. Who knows?
Yeah, because nobody's an expert.
I mean, we
know?
thought it was funny, but
Yeah, you had to try to learn from people and what they're saying, and I mean, if you don't believe it,
just him, the way he
you
was
just don't
delivering
believe it, and you just go on. And,
it was hilarious. The way his delivery of it.
yeah,
It's a little out there, you know?
it is.
I'm
Yeah,
not
but I
gonna
think he's
pretend it's not.
really being honest with it, with what he's saying. Yeah.
So you believe some of the theories he
I believe a lot of what he's
introduced you
saying.
to?
Yeah,
Oh, interesting. So what is Bigfoot? I heard a whole variety of theories about what it might be. It might be a UFO, might be an interdimensional being, might be an unknown primate. The list goes on. What is it that you think this creature may or may not be?
That is a great question. I've been all over the place on that because of a lot of information now of, seeing orbs with Bigfoots coming and going, and then all of a sudden they, obviously very stealth animals. I really started to get recently into vibrational frequencies, and everything within our Earth, us, trees, are made up, have different frequencies. And I'm trying to open my mind up more to that type of aspect on it to know, because a lot of people say, well, Bigfoot disappears, or, is it a flesh and blood? Yeah, I mean, people have, I guess, shot Bigfoot from what they've claimed and have seen blood, blood drops and then gone back later or whatever. I mean, we've all heard the stories. And I think you've got to take pieces of everything and try to piece it together and come in with an open mind, because none of us ultimately are experts.
A lot of people have, kind of more subdued and mundane explanations that they're looking for. They're trying to find, kind of an ordinary explanation to these extraordinary sightings in the woods.
It could be a loose animal. I mean, we were down in Florida, the trades that came through here, the 80s, drug stuff where you had all the, people getting exotics. I mean, you look at South America right now and the hippos, yeah. So, and down in southern Florida, the iguana problem, the snake problem. Is it something that kind of got dropped off? It could be something we've been missing all this time,
There are monkeys in Florida. There's several colonies that have been introduced over the years, and now they're an invasive species. There's Burmese pythons all over the Everglades, and there have also been chimpanzee sightings. So, like Mike suggested, maybe at least in Florida and possibly other states, some of these sightings of Bigfoot are actually a known primate just living somewhere that it's not supposed to. What would you say to folks that, don't believe you?
I would say just take a month and do some good research online. Encounters, the number of sightings, parts of the country, everything. If you take a good month and delve into it really good, you're going to come away with the same opinion I did, that there's got to be something to this. There's no way you can come away and say, there's nothing there, it's not real.
I'm sure for a lot of people, Bigfoot, just the idea of it, the fact that people believe in it is just silly. But, there's a good chance that you believe something silly. The vast majority of the public believes in a God. Some people believe in more than one God. And in organized religions, there's a lot of crazy stuff. Everything from flying chariots to talking animals, and every type of animal from snakes to donkeys. If someone told you that they had a conversation with a donkey, you would probably think they were nuts. But, billions of people believe this without question, without any proof. So how is this any different? A lot of the folks that I've spoken with at this point have at least, or claim to have seen a Bigfoot. I personally don't know anyone who has seen a God.
Whether or not they believe in Bigfoot doesn't really make much of a difference to my life, so.
Bigfoot today has become really mainstream. We have all sorts of TV shows, we have a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of opportunity. And I really think today people are more freely to talk about things, talk about experiences. And as a whole, I think people are they're becoming a little bit more open-minded and less critical of it. But you're still gonna get the naysayers. And ultimately, it comes down to, until you walk a mile in my shoes or you get out there and do it, we can always criticize, but it goes to the old cliche of playing sports. You want to be a armchair quarterback, or are you actually in the game? And I think that's what it comes down to.
So ultimately, what did I find while searching for Bigfoot? Well, I found a community of super friendly people. They're a lot of fun, they're very welcoming, they don't take themselves too seriously. You know, they're willing to laugh at themselves. They know what most people think about the topic of Bigfoot. They do take that seriously, but they're just great people who love hanging out in the woods. And you know what? I love hanging out in the woods, so why the hell wouldn't I go out in the woods with these people? They're just a good time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out the documentary that these clips didn't make it into, or check out some of the other videos on my channel which cover a wide variety of topics. If you'd like to keep up with what I'm working on, head over to my website to sign up for my newsletter.